Karen Holton TV presents the Quantum Guide Show, featuring ordinary people sharing their extraordinary gifts within our social reality. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today, I'm very happy to bring back my returning guest, Andrew Lauridsen. And for those of you who are not familiar, let me tell you a little bit about him. Andrew calls himself a professional nobody, an amateur hug dealer, and is an overall jack of all trades, attempting to advocate for the idea of a global, stateless society that will ultimately permeate the planet once this budding technocratic era implodes from within. This will leave those of us who sought to build the new earth by preserving the ways of being and ways of knowing, to return fully to our sovereignty as spiritual beings in these temporary material forms. Alas, we live in a hyper-commercialistic matrix and we have to wear clothes. So why not make counter-propaganda clothing? See the link to Andrew's merch below. Because as Andrew says, dang, the social engineers have divided us so successfully that it is ultimately why I am here. Andrew has a YouTube channel called Heavy Weights, Light Feels, which offers powerlifting philosophy and philanthropy as a platform to discourse on consciousness and its impact to a healthy life and community. Today, we're going to talk about the new earth and what the outcomes may bring. All of the links are in the description below. And I want to thank everyone in advance for subscribing. Please leave me a comment and do smash that like button. YouTube channel memberships are now available, so you can receive my perks and you can help to support my channel. Without further ado, welcome, Andrew. How lovely to see you again. It's been a while.
Hello, Karen. Thank you so much for having me again. And, thank you for the introduction. And I'm really excited for this conversation because the best conversations I have with people actually start before the stream starts. Because we were just, had you not noticed it was time to start, we would have just kept going back and forth. And so I'm really excited. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. So, I thought we could start off like a lot of people want a new earth. A lot of people are expecting a new earth. Some people are thinking it's going to come through a religious context. Some people think it might be ETs that are going to help this to happen. But I believe that I kind of believe in simulation theory, but I believe our earth has its own consciousness, its own soul, its own spirit. And I also believe in what some people might call God, some people would call Holy Spirit, some people would call it universal consciousness. And I think it's always been with us when we're in a position to see it, if we've got eyes to see. And so I thought we could start off by talking a bit about how we've witnessed the phenomena through our life circumstances. And I don't know, are you good? I believe you're good with that.
Yes, absolutely. Especially now, as I feel like we're on the cusp of more and more people joining us on this journey. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
really cool to share personal stories of, how we've experienced the divine or the source or the spirit. I love that there's so many different terms for it because
Mm-hmm.
um, I one of my favorite expressions is avoid absolutes. And so if you get hyper fixated on one of the terms, I feel like you might lose some of the essence. So God, or the universe, the Tao, all of those things, I believe, sort of the fundamental driver of consciousness, whatever it may be. And there is something out there, and we are connected to it. In my own personal journey, I've progressed from, I never would say I was an atheist, but I also never would say I was a spiritual person. I like philosophy.
Mhm.
As a teenager, I found philosophy and I was like, this is really cool because the questions of the universe are so deep and so complex. And it's the human instinct to seek answers. And what we've went through over the last few years, you made a comment before the stream. I wish people could have heard. But there are just so many reasons to be angry, and
Mhm.
own personal journey, I've had to deal with just so much anger over the last 5 years, and it was, it was a journey, and I'm thankful I'm coming out of the other side of it. And so that's a big part of my own personal journey, because legitimately, there are so many reasons to be angry if you are trying
Mhm.
to awaken. But I believe, the next step should be to transmute that anger, to turn it into something positive, something productive, which was ultimately the genesis for my desire to make the shirts that I made. I never was super interested in becoming a YouTuber. I was never super interested in doing merchandise and all of the things that kind of come with that, putting yourself out there. That's kind of why I called myself a professional nobody, because I don't really want to be someone. So
Mhm.
I'm in this weird position where part of my healing journey required me to, use art to help transmute the anger I had in me. Uh
Mhm.
I'm just trying to put myself out there a little bit. I'd love to hear more about, sort of your journey with anger as well, because I think it's maybe not something talked about enough.
Mhm. Absolutely. So I'm actually going to do a whole show about transmuting anger next week, but I wanted to talk a little bit about like a lot of people they're afraid to believe that a new earth is possible and is coming. And I want to share a little bit about my past and my history, as I invite you to do, Andrew, as well. And that is on how, when I was closest to having nothing, that is where spirit was so evident in my life. So, as some of you know, I raised my kids as a single mom. I lived and my kids. I raised my kids well below the poverty level, well below the poverty level, and I had to ration food. So I'm giving you one example. And I always had to ration food. I made sure that my kids had enough to eat even before I knew whether or not I was going to have enough to eat. But I always found that didn't matter what the food item was, whether it was oatmeal or eggs or whatever, if I never used it all at once, if I saved a little bit, it was like the story of the woman who had the pot that constantly overflowed with, I forget if it was pudding or whatever. It was like we always had enough. And it was a magical time. I know that's not usually how people would refer to being in poverty, but it was a magical time because I found that I never ran out of certain things. It was really wild. Another example is, like, for instance, when we needed toilet paper, I just knew on a day, just wake up and go, I have to go to this store. I didn't even know why. I'd go to the store and here they'd have toilet paper 50% off, like a huge deal. And I was able to buy toilet paper. We always had our needs met no matter what. It didn't mean that life was easy, though. Oh my God, I had to spend so much time collecting pop bottles and beer cans and um, trying to find services I could do for people. And, it was a constant kind of a struggle. But the evidence that I was being and my family was being looked after was indisputable. In fact, sometimes it was even humorous in the ways that what we needed would show up for us. And I'm sure, Andrew, you have found the same thing. Andrew, if you want to go check out his channel, I highly recommend it because Andrew speaks right from the heart. And he did a video not too long ago called Sometimes Happiness is a Bag of Cheese. And it was wonderful. And it really inspired me and brought back a lot of memories from my own life. I just want to turn it back over to you while I catch up on the chat, Andrew, and ask you if you've noticed the same thing. The closer we are to not having, the more aware we are that the universe or God or Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, is supplying is arranging things for us so that we're taken care of.
Absolutely. I'll just start with a small funny example. I was doing some errands the other day, buying some groceries, and I try to use change, exact change when I can. It's just one little way I feel like I can stack dollars, which then can stack fives and tens. And I ended up having the exact amount of change I needed for my transaction. And it seems
Mm-hmm.
little, but in that moment, I was just like, oh, thank you, universe. Thank you. Finding, a connection with the divine in the mundane moments has been one of the biggest lessons I think that adversity has taught me in my own personal journey. And so I've got a background up, but for I guess some further context, I intentionally am choosing to live in a minivan right now. I just the last 5 years have been crazy, and this is the best way I have found to uh, slowly sort of make progress in my life. This journey has to the I've hit rock bottom, I guess you could say. And in that moment when it was, it was a few years ago, I'd say, but that's when I really faced myself and I asked myself, you know, do you want to continue to live like this, or what do
Mm-hmm.
you want for yourself? And actually asking myself what I wanted, really forced me to assess my priorities in life. And what I ultimately wanted was to not be angry and to
Mm-hmm.
get away from the system that I believe is the source of a majority of our problems in the world. And so I've got some notes kind of on that. The system, there's so many names for it. People call it the matrix, the government, the elites, the ruling class. It's so tough. But ultimately, whatever entity is above us, I just call it the government, the state. They're sort of the biggest source of humanity's struggles, and I don't think we're going to get away from them anytime soon. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what I have found is that the more I withdraw from that system that is evil, less I am complicit in supporting that evil, much in like a cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you don't feed a cancer, it will die. And so our participation in that system feeds it. And going back to my anger to try and connect all these dots, a large source of my anger was just seeing what is going on in the world and not knowing what to do, not knowing how to compartmentalize such tremendous amounts of evil. And I think so many people in the awakening community can relate to that. And then also on the same end, why so many people close their eyes to it is because it is so immense. And so why people decide to just become NPCs or just to ignore reality is because it creates a significant amount of cognitive dissonance. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a battle. And one thing that helped me get out of it was, a connection to nature and this
Yeah.
desire to, as I call, return to the planet. And so, while I live in my minivan, I took out a private loan and I'm paying off. I have 5 acres of land in Tennessee, and it's kind of catchy right now. A lot of people are doing the off grid thing, but I legitimately think that's the best path forward because if you're not, so if you're not paying taxes to the government, you're being self sufficient, you're not at all complicit in what they're doing. And in the introduction, Karen mentioned preserving ways of being and ways of knowing. Uh, the interaction with the planet, as you had mentioned, that you believe it has its own soul, it is its own entity. Um, that's our mission in life is to serve this planet and serve our communities. And
Mm-hmm.
so ultimately, while I'm at this, I've not quite answered your question. Let me answer it, and then I'll let you talk again. I'm sorry. while I'm at this place in life where I'm living in a minivan, where I have almost nothing to my name but this debt that will eventually be paid off, that will yield me 5 acres of land, I've been kind of the happiest. I'm working with a crew of guys doing some construction, and then I have another job, a retail job. I'm hustling right now. And so while I have nothing, I feel so freaking blessed because what I do feel I have is an opportunity. And it's an opportunity to live a life where I'm not angry and where I'm feeling joy and I'm feeling purpose. And a big part of helping again, I'm almost done, I swear. Um,
No,
you
it's
know,
all good. No rush.
um, you know, I still, like many of you, might have that desire to want to help other people awaken. But
Hmm.
one of the biggest things I've learned is people have to be ready. And so that's why I like my background. It didn't quite work out. It's supposed to be the No Division logo. Um,
Hmm.
you know, if I can uh, go about my everyday life just being a beacon for bringing people together and trying to help awaken anyone, that's a very fulfilling feeling, and I'm really really glad that through adversity, I found purpose and direction and this community that we're building here. I call it like the conscious community, but there's truthers and there's the spiritual people, all these sort of peripheral communities of people. We're seeking, uh, answers, and we're finding answers, and we're finding each other. And I'm really thankful to be a part of it. Thank you for letting me rant.
Oh, my pleasure. Listen, you never have to be sorry for speaking your truth and sharing what's in on your heart and on your mind. I don't have a lot of rules. The only rule I really have is I ask guests to keep their clothes on. That's about it. Really, that's about it. Whatever else, I only have good people on, and my wonderful live chat is beautiful people, and the people that watch my shows are beautiful people. But getting back to the poverty thing, I learned that poverty is legislated. It is built into the system for a number of reasons. One reason is to keep a very large percentage of the population struggling and perceiving lack, and then projecting their upsettedness and anger onto other people, and it keeps a certain amount of turmoil. For those in the middle classes, they get to compare themselves with the lower classes, feel somehow a little bit superior, that maybe they did things right and that's why they're not poor. But we all know that's not the truth. But I'm not saying all middle class people are like that, not at all. But I'm just saying that that's the goal, is to keep the middle class a little bit afraid that if they screw up or they step out in the wrong direction, they're going to be faced with poverty. People also don't realize that poverty is not just lack of funds. Poverty is so much more. And certainly poverty of spirit. I can remember taking my kids to the soup kitchen, and we used to eat our bowl of soup and pocket our sandwich and take that home for our supper. And it was really interesting, the kind of conflicts that went on there. There was a lot of churches that meant really well, and different religions, and they'd have once a month, each one would sponsor a different dinner, and all the homeless and poor people could come and have dinner. But guess what? We had to sit and listen to them tell us that the reason we were poor was because we didn't know Jesus. And if we knew Jesus, we'd be fine. We'd have jobs and nice homes and everything like they have in their religion. Oh my God, it was so fucking, pardon my language, it was so disturbing to have them up on the stage, and you're hungry and your belly's empty and you can smell the dinner they're going to give you, but you don't get that dinner until you've heard that the reason you're having these problems is because you don't have Jesus. What a pile of crap. I'm sorry, I'm getting angry. I need to save that for the show next week. But I'm just saying, there's a whole bunch of things. So, in my opinion, the homeless and poor people waiting on our dinner, we were more spiritually rich than those who had the religion and were telling us that our poverty was our own fault. People also make a lot of assumptions. They assume we just spend our money on drugs and that it's our fault. And all of this garbage, it's all garbage, garbage, garbage. When you get into the higher echelons, they think the same way about the middle class people. And so this is going on and on and on. But I don't want to get too deep into the dregs of being poor. I'm just saying, well, this is what I've seen, this is what I've experienced, and this is what I will not miss when we come into the new paradise and the new world, which is not the same as the new world order. In fact, it's probably the opposite. So, Andrew, I want to turn it back to you. Please don't feel like you have to rush or anything. Take your time. Tell us about the new earth. Tell us how you see this coming and how you see this sort of expanding through awareness, but also, as you mentioned, the imploding of the technocratic state.
I loved your passion. Thank you. I also share a passion for, I think real quick, just I want to mention the religious gaslighting is what pushes people away from church, which pushes people away from Jesus, which is unfortunate because I think Jesus was the man.
Mm.
His service to humanity is a message that we should all sort of try to embody. I think that the new earth will see a lot more service to humanity. Um, and this is sort of just my interpretation. I'm coming into this newer to the spiritual community. But before that, was analyzing philosophy and politics and psychology. And I believe the New Earth Project is a multi-generational project in how it manifests on the planet, but it
Mm-hmm.
is an individual project for us in this lifetime and any potential future lifetimes because we could reincarnate right back into this battle. I don't think we're going to win it in this lifetime in terms of how it manifests on the planet. Winning it for us individually is through the process of self-actualization or individuation, which I think should be anyone's personal sort of objective or goal. Um, and then if you are an individuated, self-actualized person, you just go out into the world and be, as the Tao would say, just go be. And your presence will contribute to the elevation of the collective consciousness. And so I do think the technocrats probably have, I'd say 2 to 400 more years, as crazy as that sounds with how fast technology moves and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm wrong. I would be happy to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But that's sort of my projection. And so knowing that their ultimate objective is to consolidate all power and resources on the planet for their own uh, goals materially, and then also that connects to the spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Our best path of resistance is kind of, what I had spoken about earlier, the off grid lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, I'm not going to use any names, I'm not going to call anyone out specifically. But I think there are still a lot of people in our community who are perpetuating the problematic left right paradigm, and
Yes.
that's preventing so much collaboration we could be doing to create what I believe is necessary, pockets or communities of resistance, which really
Mm-hmm.
isn't any actual resistance beyond just living a beautiful, happy life. That's the biggest fuck you that you could give to the system, is to just
Mm-hmm.
withdraw from it and then go be happy. Um, I like I had said, I love philosophy, and I always want to temper that with this idea of yes, there is shit going on in the world, and it is so sad and it is so unfortunate. But you cannot let that consume your soul. There's a
Mm-hmm.
really good quote from the Tao Te Ching, paraphrasing here, but it says, um, "Contemplate the suffering of other beings, but remember their return to the source." And so for me personally, because there's a lot of guilt that I felt and still kind of feel around this idea of why do I deserve to be happy when the world is so troubled?
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm still working through that. I've made a lot of progress, but that's something that I wanted to put out there is that we do deserve to be happy. We have to embody that, and not let the darkness of the world consume us, which it can do.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the new
Mm-hmm.
earth, it is, in a few hundred years when the technocracy sort of implodes because it's not sustainable from a game theoretics perspective. um
Yes.
the best yeah, okay, not to get super nerdy, but from a game theoretics perspective, a benevolent strategy will always win out in the long run, but a malevolent strategy will have pockets where it sort of wins for long stretches, but in the long
Mm-hmm.
run, benevolence and cooperation ultimately win, and that's what we should be focusing on. Me personally, uh, to bring back the division element, that's been a pattern I've seen for the last 25 to 30 years, and it's one that I hope we can break, and that I'm striving to build community, and right now I think we're close, but a lot of people still have a lot more work to do, and I know it's like, "Let he who is free from sin cast the first stone." I very much still have work to do. If you go look at my YouTube channel, you will see a very mercurial person, but I have faith that this is the right path and that we just have to push forward together, not letting them divide us and building as big and strong of a community as we can. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I have not been able to follow the comments, you all. I'm so very sorry.
No, no, it's okay. There's quite a few comments, and I don't want it to break your train of thought. It's also for the audience that's watching the replay later on, so they can see that we're a group involved. And I love to share what the people in the live chat are saying as well. It gives even more context to what we're saying. So don't worry about that. I get overwhelmed with the chat all the time. No disrespect to the chat. I love the chat. But yeah, it's like Fearless Phoenix is saying, sometimes we're talking between, amongst ourselves. But if they comment something that's sort of relevant, I'll throw it up on the screen because other people will benefit from it too. So the show is not just you and me, it's also the live chat. But I don't want to take away from what you're saying. So, I'm really glad you brought up game theory. I love game theory. And yeah, it makes sense to me because it allows for you to have boundaries. So you have a spirit of cooperation, you're good to other people. But when they screw you over and show you that they're not mature enough to have a healthy relationship, then it's also kind of okay to give them the swerve, to back away from that relationship, to protect ourselves, and to not have more annoyance and more things adding to our stress and stuff. And when you do that, you're giving a message to the person who is not that healthy yet. That's what I'm going to call them, not that healthy yet, because I think they can make it. They can make it, but they need a few wake up calls. So you often see this where we have to gray rock people who are what we would call a narcissistic pattern. We don't need to be abused, but at the same time, we can be loving. We can always put that foot forward, and often it pays off. And so I find it's a win-win situation. We get to have boundaries and protect ourselves. And we also help teach other people that way, but we can also stay grounded in love, which I think is the harmonic of this new beautiful paradise that's emerging. I see it emerging already because I got the eyes of understanding. So that's partly why Andrew and I are here, so we can tell guys, this is a real thing, and this is some of our process around it, and I hope it will help everybody out there. Sorry, see, I ramble all the time, so never apologize for being on a roll, Andrew. So I'll just turn it back over to you.
Well, I was curious, kind of, you said you're seeing it manifest. Do you see any timelines, or do you see any actual physical changes in this reality dimension? What do you see in the new Earth?
Well, to be honest with you, I see several different timelines, but just because I see a timeline doesn't mean it's going to happen. So, only a few weeks ago, Source revealed to me through a vision what the world would look like if the WEF gets its way and gets to fulfill what they plan to do. And it was very interesting. I'm going to make a podcast about that too. Basically, in that timeline, we're all gone. They managed to get rid of most of us through disease and culling of various different ways. But what was interesting is most of the land is not populated by those who we perceive as holding the power. I'm not going to believe they're actually holding the power. I'm saying that we perceive holding the power. They're in their underground bunkers, and although they think that they've got wonderful lives, actually there's another force that gives them their marching orders that we can't see with our human eyes, that actually will take over the planet. But that's not actually very likely, or it might happen for a while and then we'll come back. And guys, I want to stress there's a lot worse things than dying. In fact, it's funny. We cry when we lose a loved one. We think it's so horrible when somebody dies. But in truth, when we die, we shuck off this three-dimensional, we go into five-dimensional living, and we have much, much better lives. And I've been told that by the animals because I'm a meat eater and I have kind of a lot of guilt around that because I don't want to animals to be sacrificed for me to live. Like, what kind of a world is that? It's gross. But my body does much better on animal protein than it does, especially on processed food. But that's another story. So I have seen other timelines where everybody almost it happens. Like, I don't know if it's the 100th monkey thing. Those of you who aren't familiar, you might want to do some research on it. Basically, scientists took some monkeys and they taught them a skill and how to use a tool that they'd never used before. And as soon as they got proficient at using that tool, populations of monkeys all around the world started picking up and using that tool in the same way. So there is like a common consciousness. And we're going to get to the point where we go, enough, enough. We refuse to do this anymore. And without us being the soldiers in their war, they got no war. And as soon as we stop giving our power to them, we retain our power within ourselves. It's hugely important. It's so exciting. So, like the 100th monkey, a certain percentage of us become awakened and become conscious and have this desire to live on the love harmonic and spread peace. We're supposed to be stewards. We're supposed to be out there helping the animals and the plants and gardening and living in our natural beautiful homes that are made out of natural things. And this is what we're meant to do, not the way we're living today. So anyway, long story short, and I used to think it had to be over 50% of the population had to wake up before this 100th monkey phenomenon kicks into action. No, no, no. It's like maybe 10%. It's not that many. We're getting very close to that. And the powers that be here on earth know that. And that's why they're escalating all these things and divisions. I'm sorry, I can't help but get on a soapbox about this kind of stuff.
Keep going,
Um,
keep going.
So the thing is we're going to withdraw our power from them. We're not going to believe them anymore. And I keep telling people on the show, government means mind control. That's literally what government means. So I'm not anti-government. I'm just saying, excuse me, this is my brain, mind, and I'm in charge of it. You are not, I am. Not you, Andrew, or not my audience, but the powers that think they're gonna do all this. So let them have their, pardon me for this expression, their wet dreams and their circle jerks. I can't think of a better analogy. Let them, sorry, you can dress me up, but you can't take me anywhere. Um, and it doesn't matter. It cannot win. And so what will happen is we'll come together and we'll say we want a new system and we want it based on love and peace, and we're not going to fight each other anymore. And boom, it happens. It's so exciting. It happens through manifestation. It happens through support from spiritual and possibly extraterrestrial, possibly even subterranean, subaquatic humanoids that are already here that we may not even know about. But I think it's going to be friggin' awesome, and I can't wait. And I'll just zip it and look after the chat while you talk. Sorry if I knocked anyone off their seat with my bad language and my irreverent metaphors, but it's just spirit moves me. You don't have to be super holy to be filled with spirit.
That was beautiful. Thank you very much. You were cooking, as the kids say.
Can I cook or can't I?
You can. You joked that you're not anti-government, but you're anti-mind control. I'm
Oh
very much
yeah.
anti-government. The stateless society project, I believe, is the best way that humans can live with love and peace and collaboration and cooperation, because all that the government is a mechanism of force. um, and so that's where I bring philosophy back into it, because I think
Mhm.
philosophy and spirituality and psychology, all of that it's just so intertwined. um, and so when humanity can learn to live as individual sovereign beings, they will understand that they actually don't need any governments. So that's what I hope ultimately will happen among the planet, is that we will just, uh, I like to say, dissolve. I hope that we don't have to fight. The idea of violent revolution, it does have a slightly romantic element to it, to me at least. I grew up, V for Vendetta was a fantastic movie, and the idea is awesome. Resistance. It's so very appealing, especially being a martyr, because I think in a lot of ways the path of a martyr appeals to us, because that's the only logical path if you do realize you're fighting this ginormous evil. But maybe it's not the most logical path. It's what you might think is the most logical path, but you lose
Mhm.
yourself in the journey. And the journey, your experience here, that's the gift. We have a mission, I believe. That's one thing actually I want to bring up. I forgot. There's no real good mission that people are talking about in a way that um, is bringing people together. We're not talking about the new earth as a mission. We're talking about it as something that just sort of happens. And I think
Mhm.
there's a subtle difference in the language. One requires a little bit of responsibility on the part of everyone, whereas the other, everyone just sort of thinks it's something that's going to happen to them. So there's active or passive. Um, when we state that this is a mission, it provides us with the responsibility to do work to bring it about. And then that's where I would ask you, as everyone who might see this, what are you doing to bring about the new earth? It's really fun to talk about it, and I'm not trying to be like judgmental when I ask that. I'm
Mhm.
more so just trying to provoke something inside you potentially, because I know so many people that have ideas. I don't get out a lot. I don't do a lot of shows. I but I feel very comfortable with you, Karen, which is why it's easy to do a show with you. But I do know a lot of people. I have a lot of connections, a lot of people behind the scenes that I communicate with. And I know so many of them have ideas, but they're not actually doing anything about it. And I think that's what we need to do right now is to be about it. It's not just talk about it, but be about it. Uh, that's my own personal sort of interpretation of the new earth is that it's a mission that we're sent here to accomplish, which means we have duties and responsibilities. It will be cool, it will be beautiful, when it happens. But in the meantime, I hope that we can build some sort of movement and um, around the idea, and I hope more people join in because um, I don't see I don't have the energy, I guess, to, like, lead such a movement, but
Mhm.
I wanna participate in one, so I hope someone else jumps in and sort of takes over.
Mhm. I believe, similar to what you said, that the new Earth is gonna be a spontaneous happening. It's much bigger than us. I think that, if we take care of our mental health, our physical health, our spiritual health, we can hold more what I call frequency, higher frequencies that, put us more in tune with our spirit guides and our loving thoughts and feelings. And of course, nobody's perfect. Look at how riled up I get sometimes on my show. It's a good thing next week we're going to talk about leveraging anger because we all got good reasons to be angry, but I'm not following any other humans. In fact, if ET comes and says, we're the leaders and we're going to show you, I don't believe that either. I believe that this is going to happen because there are cycles in time, cycles of everything, and it's the time of the cycle that we're coming into. And I think that I also, as I mentioned earlier, kind of believe in simulation theory. So I think we're all programming what we're experiencing as well. And I think the powers that be know that, which is why they're pushing this fear campaign. But as soon as we get our personal shit together, and as some people have said, I believe Victoria Edwards said in the live chat that we got to do shadow work. We can't pretend that we're holy and that we're good. When I started getting downloads and ET contact, it was very clearly laid out to me that I must not participate in cults. I must not try to start a cult. And cults are often started without intention of starting a cult, but you get one person and they get, ego comes in and they get a perception they have some kind of power, and it's very seductive, I think. So I have to be aware of that. So I think that we just do the best we can, one day at a time. We all face loss. We face all the full range of emotions, and if we're not, then I don't know. Maybe we're not really in touch. Because I don't know about you guys. I've been in touch. I've been working on myself for many years, and I'm still surprised by what I find. So shadow work, I think, is really important. I'll tell you why shadow work is so important for me. This is just how I see it. You guys don't have to see it the same way. I respect everybody, regardless of what you believe. But shadow work for me was so important because I came from such a dysfunctional family that loved to project their shit onto other people and not take any responsibility for it. And so what happens if I don't do shadow work? I'm projecting onto other people, which means everybody I come across who has some of the same attributes I have, I'm casting the image of those negative things onto them and bullying them, targeting them, scapegoating them. Well, that's not going to help me or them or bring about the new world, the new earth. So that's why it's so important. And also becoming an observer within myself. So before it was all me and my neurotic thoughts and my psychotic thoughts and whatever else was going on in there, jumping beans sometimes. I had to get to the point where I can't explain it. I created a parent, And what I mean by a parent is, like, for instance, if you have children, you don't let them eat a bunch of crap and make themselves sick and stay up too late, and you teach them how to take care of themselves, and you limit some of their controls. Well, I needed a parent within to limit some of my controls and to show me and teach me. So that's how I developed an internal observer, and it's always with me now, always watching, not actually very, not very intrusive. Like, my higher self, or my internal parent, or my internal observer, never gives me shit, never shames me, never makes me feel bad. It just says, gee, there's a better way of doing this, Karen. Why don't we try this next time? Why don't we try that next time? Let's experiment a little bit. That's what that internal observer has given to me. And I know I'm not any kind of special person, so if I can have that, y'all can have that too. And but looking at self can be very disturbing and even disorienting. But again, it just yields so much learning potential, and can change us so drastically from the way we were, which also was unhappy, to the way we're becoming, which is much happier. And you know what? I'd rather be happy than be right. So it's not like I have to be right about anything. No, I want to be happy. And that's how my body tells me I'm on the right track. Sorry, see, I babble a lot. Andrew, thank you for your patience. You're awesome. What do you have to say about that?
These are my favorite conversations. Steven from the BG cast, I have conversations the same with him where
Oh,
we
he's
just,
a good friend of mine.
yeah, he's fantastic. You said a few things I tried to make notes. I want to touch on.
Sorry.
No, no, I love it. I love it.
Oh.
The simulation theory and how we program reality, it's so true. And the more that I progress on my own personal journey, the more I understand it's continuous. You never stop working on yourself, but you have to acknowledge little victories. And
Mm-hmm.
I've just noticed that even on not beautiful days, I find beauty again.
Mm-hmm.
My vibration, I see beauty, I feel love, I project love. Uh, and you had brought up your childhood and how it sort of shaped you to project. And it made me think about a part of my childhood, or elements of my childhood that required me to develop in to be very hyper aware. I
Mm-hmm.
guess you could say growing up in a abusive household, you have to learn to identify triggers and you have to learn
Mm-hmm.
patterns and all of that. And so I developed a good ability to judge, maybe, but unfortunately, judgment can be good and bad. And I
Mm.
find myself sometimes making judgments and asking myself, like, well, why did you just make that judgment about a person that you don't even know, or something like that? And I'll ask myself, like, where did that come from? And learning to be just self compassionate in that process, and unpacking the years of needing to be aware and assessing, but then also the years of insecurity that come with that create, I guess I'm not judgmental, but things come into my brain, and you just have to be honest, like you were saying, doing shadow work is dark. And
Mhm.
that person I used to be was just always on edge, was always thinking somebody else was gonna try and screw them over, was never really fully trusting. And the more I heal, the more I'm able to trust people, the less I'm judging other people before, like, this person's going to let me down before you even give them an opportunity to do so. So you
Mm.
push people
Mhm.
away. I've done
Mhm.
that before. Um, it's been wonderful. Um, and I think I had one more note. but I didn't write it down, and so I got a little lost. I do apologize.
That's no, don't
Um,
ever apologize. Spirit will move you where you need to be. Andrew, did you look at the this particular comment? I want you to see because I think a lot of us feel this. Andrew, just have to say, I'm so proud of you. I'm glad to meet you. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but I just want you to know that people do love you. And I want to tell everybody, whether you're watching a replay or you're here on the live chat, please go and check out Andrew's merchandise. Now, if you can't afford it, of course, we don't expect you to go out and buy it all. But even if you can't afford it, we don't expect it. But if you can, go and help support Andrew's work because he's making a big difference. And I think that that's one way that you can make a big difference in his life and help him. Sorry for speaking for you. Sorry for getting emotional. I just get emotional. I don't know because this is, I guess, because it's important. And there's so much bullshit out there. When you start really dealing with the real, it does stir the emotions. So I wanted you to make sure that you saw that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Karen. I think another comment I had made before the stream started was that you've been doing this for years and you're one of the pioneers of the movement, and you had commented you love your community and you're very thankful that you have them, and um, I this is the manifestation of you bringing people together, and it's really beautiful and it's what the planet needs, and so you're just doing wonderful things, and so that's why I'm thankful that you are having me on, and that you can manage my rambles. We're gonna make so much progress this year and in the coming years, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
cool to be a part of it with you, so thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Absolute honor to have met you, to have gotten to know you, to be able to witness your content. And yeah, no, I'm so happy that you're on the program. So we got about 10 minutes left, Andrew. I'm wondering if there's anything that you didn't get a chance to talk about yet that you want to talk about and share.
Let me look through my notes. I think, we hit a lot of my notes, and I love it because it wasn't in the order I have them, but they still all, sort of organically arose. Um, you know, One thing we didn't touch on specifically was the learned helplessness response
Oh, yes, that's a big
uh,
one.
that they've programmed. So you mentioned that they've programmed the scarcity mindset into us,
Mhm,
and then that creates a learned helplessness sort of cycle that we just sort of adopt and embrace and accept, and that perpetuates the problem. And so, on my own personal journey of finding faith in the universe, in the Tao, whatever you call it,
mhm,
um, I have had to personally overcome huge uh, sort of manifestation blocks around abundance, and
mhm,
it's so wild because looking back now, it's almost like I see people talk about generational curses and family curses and whatnot, and I think I've been tasked with breaking a family curse of some
mhm,
sort, and so I know the future is going to work out. I'm not ever going to be rich, but I don't ever want to be rich. Who needs billions of dollars? But uh, me breaking the programming will help other people break the programming. And so I admit and I acknowledge at one point in my life that I was very guilty of perpetuating a learned helplessness response as well as
mhm,
a division response. I'm so passionate about not letting the ruling class divide us, but I used to be a part of the problem too. And so
mhm,
I just want to acknowledge that and make space for other people to grow. That's a big thing that, I don't have very many YouTube subscribers. I've been doing it for years.
mm,
But if I can be a model for other people to see, like, oh, 5 years ago, this guy was just really angry and saying these controversial things, and now he's growing. That would be a really cool arc for me personally. Because if you want people to grow, you have to give them space to grow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that includes yourself. You have to give yourself space to grow. Um, and just the you mentioned the Minneapolis, Minnesota thing earlier as well. Uh, one of my shirts, not everything's a psyop, but most things
Mm-hmm.
are. It's so
Mm-hmm.
easy to get caught up in what's going on. I still myself get caught up in it, but I just want to remind people that everything is staged. If it's not staged, it's utilized in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So even if an
Mm-hmm.
event is real, it's manipulated in a way to still create division. And I really want to encourage people to not let them divide us. Um,
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would personally like to participate in is having difficult conversations with people, because I do believe some of the ways they're dividing us, or some of the issues they're dividing us on, are important conversations to have. But
Mm-hmm.
the collective dialectic right now is atrocious. People are just not at all having civil discourse, which is so sad because that's truly how we grow. And so, we shouldn't avoid all of these subjects, but at the same time, we need to not let the ruling class divide us. It's a
Mm-hmm.
delicate balance, but I just wanted to remind people of that. Thank you very much.
Oh, that was awesome. I agree 100%. I just keep reminding myself that any news agency, whether it's mainstream or alternative, they want views and they want clicks. They want people to come back. They want to lead people in with their well, for lack of a better word, histrionic kind of thumbnails. And, some of what they're saying is true, but it's only one tiny perspective on a whole scene. Each person is doing what they're doing because they have a perspective. And, if I was born in their shoes, if I had their genetics, their life experience, their family of origin, I might be in exactly the same place. So hating them would be like hating myself. Now, it doesn't mean I approve of everything that's being done, not at all. But at the same time, I have to have compassion for everything. And I'm not justifying their actions, not at all. I think we all could do better, even those of us who are really spiritually aware. But at the same time, remember, it's all entertainment. I mean, I even had to change the classification of my channel to entertainment, because when I had it under education, YouTube kept dropping my shows and penalizing me, and then banning me from posting any new content for 3 months or whatever, over and over and over again. No wonder I wasn't, making any headway. So I changed it to entertainment. It's entertaining too, but that's why I changed the classification of my channel. But anyway, long story short, just remember, everything we see on the idiot box, or screens, I guess, as you call them now, it's entertainment. How much of it is absolutely objectively true? I don't know. But I make up my own mind. And regardless what's going on out there, I got to deal with what's going on in here. That's my primary focus. And when I get too much of what's going on out there, my body tells me I am totally aware that I've had too much, and I've shut it off. And I live, well, actually, quite a few of us, even in the chat, live where it's very, very cold. It's kind of hard to get outside some days. But at the same time, we have on YouTube or on other streaming devices all kinds of beautiful aerial photography and birds singing. And there's people who put bird seed out and the squirrels come and get it. It's so beautiful and so heartwarming, that we can connect that way, even through a screen. It's interesting because the part of us that's appreciating those things is not confined by time or space. So that's the other element I wanted to mention. But as usual, we're very quickly running out of time. I want to turn it back over to you, Andrew, to tell people where they can find you, what you're up to. I mean, the information you want to share. I don't mean to be personal. And anything else that you want to say before we wrap it up for today?
Thank you very much. I want to someday, I want to manifest. I'm trying to manifest when I pay off my 5 acres and I have goats. I want to create a YouTube channel called Goat TV, and it's just
Oh,
a
awesome.
24/7 stream of the goats. That's all it is, and their antics. And I'm going to build a little goat playground for them. I do a little construction, so I know how to build. It'll be easy. And that'll be that's for, and I wanted to create it literally for what you just described, for people who can't get outdoors to still sort of
Mm-hmm.
appreciate how freaking funny they can be.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so funny. People can find me YouTube Heavyweights Light Feels. I will caution, it has been a journey. So if you watch something from 5 years ago, you are going to see, a different person. So please give me some space to grow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Even if a recent thing I said flusters you, I'd like space to grow. So please help in that process, provide gentle feedback. Then I also make the shirts. There should be a link. Karen will provide a Printify
Yep.
store, super easy. Just to make a few bucks. Some of them are provocative and they'll draw attention to you. So be ready for that, which is cool because it's an invitation to share. Real quick, I'm so sorry. A psyop,
Don't be, don't
on
be
my
so.
shirt, the psyop special shirt. Uh, if you do buy that shirt and you do want to tell people about psyops and false flags, you don't have to focus on 9/11. I would
Mm-hmm.
recommend you pick your personal
Mm-hmm.
favorite psyop
Yeah, you just froze
and
up a little bit
and
there, Andrew, but you're back now.
tell that person about that. So if you
Mm-hmm.
okay, we're back. And then yeah, that's all. Thank you very much for listening. Love you all. We're gonna have a great year.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for being my guest today. I really appreciate you. I want to thank Denise for moderating the live chat, but also fearlessly phoenixing has also joined us as a moderator. So I feel like I'm in really good hands. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who showed up in the live chat. I mean, it takes great dedication and commitment for you to show up to the live shows. I know that. And I want you to know how much I appreciate you. I also appreciate everybody listening on an audio podcast or replays on some of the other streaming. And I just wish the very, very best for every one of you, sending out much love, much appreciation, many, many blessings. Believe in yourself. You guys are awesome, all of you. And on that happy note, we'll close out the show. And please do check out the links below to find how to reach our dear friend Big Daddy Drew. Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional: Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available in Amazon bookstores worldwide. Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.